Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whenever you might be catching us. I just want to say, hopefully, you're having a good time. This is Dr. Richard Watkins, CEO and founder of the Science Policy Action Network and host of the Richard Watkins podcast. This is our first episode of season two. Season one was jam packed full of information, amazing guests, amazing conversations. And it was only my hope that you walked away knowing something that you didn't know. It is the mission of this podcast to have you leave smarter than when you entered. Now, with me, the problem is I think I might know something, but the more I learn, the more I realize how little I know. So it's a huge gift for me to bring in the smartest, most amazing people that I can find and bring to you. And today's guest is no exception. Absolutely incredible. I couldn't think of a guest to really kick off season two better than the one we have today. We have Layla Dowdy. Layla Dowdy is the Director of Communications for the Office of Vice Chancellor of Research for the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And an all-around amazing person. Layla, how are you doing today?
Richard, I'm doing well. I'm humbled by that introduction, though. Excited to talk to you, though.
Listen, I try to only call it like I see it, right?
I don't
You're
know about that.
amazing. If you don't want to call you amazing, stop doing amazing things. I think I first had an opportunity to work with you on the Pariser Global Lecture Series, and that was awesome. By the way, I mean we got a
Amazing.
chance to really talk about nuclear fusion. We had the director of Lawrence Livermore Laboratory. That was wild. You were in the audience when that happened. What was that? What was that experience like for you?
I would say that was one of the most impressive presentations I've seen in my life. Parts of it did give me chills, but we were talking about a technology that has the potential to revolutionize the world. I mean, and that sounds dramatic and it sounds inflated, but as you can attest yourself, it's true. It was an
Yeah,
incredible, incredible event.
yeah. I remember when before the event started, we're kind of all huddled together, kind of going over kind of last minute details, making sure that all of our T's are crossed and all of our I's are dotted. And I had a student come up to me, and you were there, and that student was volunteering,
Mhm.
and they're like, "What exactly is the talk about?" And I was like, "Yeah, blah 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 blah, science jargon, science jargon, science jargon." But then I ended up saying, basically, in summary, we've created a star.
Right.
And then like the student's jaw just dropped to the
Yeah.
ground. And then you looked at me and you're like, wait, why didn't you lead with that?
Why wasn't that the headline in our marketing materials?
I think it's because communication's hard.
It is hard. It is hard.
Communication
Yeah.
is hard, hard,
Yep.
and people take for granted how hard it is to communicate. And we've been communicating our entire lives,
Yep.
but
Since the
for the
beginning.
most part, we're terrible at it. Now
Mm.
you direct communication. Okay. So I guess what I want to know is how did you get into the field, the profession of I am the chief communicator? Like, how did that process start? I guess maybe somebody's looking at you and like, I want to be the director of communication for somewhere too.
Mhm.
Take us all the way back, Layla. Where are you
Okay.
from?
Yeah.
What do you go to college for to do this? So tell us a little bit about your origin story.
Okay. Love to. So I grew up in a small little beach town in Florida called Cape Canaveral. It's actually tiny, but very well known because it's the home of the Kennedy Space Center, where all the shuttles launched from, the Apollo rockets before that, Gemini, Mercury before that. I was raised there because my grandfather was an early aerospace engineer at Kennedy. So he was there during the foundation of the human spaceflight program. Growing up there, I got to see rockets and shuttles launch so often that they became so routine, we didn't even go outside of the house to watch them. It was just, every once in a while, the house just started shaking. My sister and I would hold picture frames against the wall, like there was another rocket. But that was literally in my backyard growing up, which was awesome. And, having that family history be a part of it, space was just always in my blood. Um, But when I went to school, graduating high school, going into school, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do or major in, which is sure is commonplace. Maybe not so much now. People seem to be specialized earlier on, but you know, 2 decades ago when I went to college, that was the case. And I had talked to one of my favorite teachers at my high school, and shared with him I wasn't sure, and he said, if I had to do it all over again, I would study public relations. And Layla, I think you would be great at PR because you write well and you engage with people well. And really, those are the two key skill sets. So I was intrigued by that. And I remembered what he said to me when I started getting to the point in school around, end of sophomore year where I had to declare a major. I said, all right, well, I'll just try PR because I still wasn't sure. I was enjoying learning about everything, right? But I had to have a focus. So I went into PR. And this is at Florida State University, go Noles. Keeping it in the ACC now that I'm at UNC, but that was at Florida State. And towards the end of my undergraduate career there, I took an opportunity to do a summer internship at the Kennedy Space Center. Because of, being from there, my dad knew some folks that worked at the media office at Kennedy. So I interned for a summer for free just to get my foot in the door, and it was incredible. I mean, I was in like the press pool of the media center, and I was answering calls from reporters about the latest, greatest in space news. But then I was also answering calls from the general public about the alien spaceship that they saw in their backyard the night before, and they wanted to report out on it.
Hey, wait. I have to cut you off. It's
Yeah.
always hard because like I try to like keep my mouth shut,
That's
but it's
okay.
always so hard because
What questions do you have about chapter one?
aliens.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
All right, I just
Yeah.
want to know, like, so what was the strangest call that you ever got in regards to aliens? I'm sorry to
Oh,
take us down that
yeah.
road, but like, I am certain that like people listening like want to know about these aliens. So, what's the craziest story that you ever heard?
No, I mean, there were a handful of calls that were trying to relay very specific experiences they had with either UFOs or something that they couldn't explain that they thought would be of great interest to NASA. And I think that's probably why they have interns answering those calls.
That is awesome. That is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
I'm envious. Yes, I am envious. I would love to entertain those calls. I think it gave you. I mean, you were telling the story because
Mhm.
I feel like this was a formative period in your life, right?
It was
That
absolutely, yeah.
and so after that internship, and it
Mhm.
was just during the summer, correct?
Correct.
And you
Yeah.
were
So,
in
but it really set the course for the next 12 years of my life. Because after that internship, I went back to school, finished up my undergraduate, went right into grad school, still at Florida State. So I'm a double null. And during my graduate program, I was actually able to do a cooperative experience with NASA. So at the time, the co-op program, and it's called Pathways now. I'm not sure if it's the same setup. But at the time it was, you would go to school full-time for a semester, and then you would go and work at NASA full-time for a semester, alternating back and forth until the degree was completed. And what that afforded me was I was already considered a federal employee at the time. I was already, working towards my years of service, but I was getting a portfolio of work under my belt too while I was completing my graduate degree. And upon graduation, I was immediately extended an offer of employment. So then I got to work at NASA for the next 10 years. And that was, my first real job. um, but I've only really worked at two places in the 20 years I've been in this profession. And it was NASA for 10 and now UNC for 10. But NASA was incredible. I got to work at Kennedy Space Center the last 5 years of the space shuttle program. And then for a few years during a really difficult transition period, when the shuttle program retired and we were bringing online the commercial crew program, which is now flourishing under SpaceX and other companies. And I also was able to work in Washington, D.C. at NASA headquarters for a few years during that time too. which was amazing because at Kennedy it was really the program side, the boots on the ground, getting rockets and people into space. And at headquarters, it was that strategy and the engagement with Congress to fund all of these programs at the center level. So kind of seeing how the sausage gets made at the federal side was kind of the crown jewel of my NASA experience. And now I've been at the University of North Carolina for 10 years.
So when you ended up at Carolina, did you
Mhm.
start as the director of communication, or was there another job or title that you held prior to the director of communication?
So there was a separate title. When I was hired, my title was Director of the Office of Research Communications. So similar, but a little distinctive because I was really brought in to manage the team that is the Office of Research Communications. And at the time when I was brought in, it was another transitional period, but before I started, the office only produced a print publication 3 times a year. My charge was to create an office that could provide maybe a print publication, but really digitize it so that it would be shared, that kind of content would be shared more widely, and also offer comprehensive communication services to the entire organization of the Vice Chancellor for Research, which extends to all of our compliance folks, our proposal development folks, our awards management folks, all the animal ethical research folks, all the human research folks. So that there wasn't a consistency of branding or message or available communication services before I started. And while I was the director of the office, I was really building up that capacity through hiring the right folks and getting that team to the level that they could support all of those responsibilities. Um, do you have questions? Sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
No, I'm just shaking my head like, wow, that's like a huge responsibility, you
Mm,
know? I mean, it sounds awesome, right? And
mhm.
the first thing that I started thinking, all right, so you have had two just huge roles in communication for NASA and then also for UNC Chapel Hill. I wonder, how has your philosophy of what is good communication, how has that changed, over time from,
Mm.
your beginnings as, a double null, doing internships and working as a federal employee, and then operating as the director of communications at UNC. How have how has your view on communication, how has it changed? And like, do you watch bad communication now and you're like, like
Yeah,
anyway, yeah, tell me a
yeah.
little bit about how your views of communication have changed.
That's so funny. So two things that I would say before I get into how my views change. One is that, the commonality between working at NASA and working at UNC as a communications professional is that I've always been the dumbest person in the room. To counter your introduction of me, truly, I have been the least educated, even though I have 2 graduate degrees. And I think though that that is kind of a superpower and strength because if I don't understand what our, first the rocket scientists and the engineers at NASA and now the PIs and the researchers at UNC, if I don't understand what they're trying to tell me about their work, then certainly the lay public is not. So I think, even in the beginning of my career, asking explanatory questions, i.e. dumb questions, has really helped. But I think over time, oh, the other thing I was going to say is the common challenge that I share between NASA and UNC as a communicator is that both of these organizations enjoy such broad brand recognition, right? People automatically know what NASA is. People know what Carolina is. The challenge has always been trying to reach a depth of understanding in any type of priority that we want to communicate or value or impact. And that I think is where my experience with communication has changed over the years. And it's just every year gaining a deeper appreciation of what specific audiences need to hear from us. And a lot of that is just lived. Like the more people you engage with, the more different types of people you engage with, the more you understand their needs.
Why is that important? Like, why does the lay public
Mhm.
need to understand, complex and complicated subject matter? Why do they need to have it translated? Why is that important?
Well, in both cases, NASA and UNC, we're stewards of the taxpayers and the American citizens and the North Carolinian citizens. So we want to communicate the value of what this work means to them, whether that's, the jobs that it's creating, the economic impact back to the state or country, but really the incredible value that the research itself has. Going back to NASA, people don't know that technology that was used to build the Hubble telescopes is used in breast cancer detection. The internet blew up because of NASA technology. And now here at UNC, like the incredible work that our researchers are doing to cure diseases, to find solutions to environmental challenges. I mean, our state has been rocked in recent years, from hurricanes to flooding to all these natural disasters and contaminants in our drinking water. Our researchers are truly on the front lines creating solutions that make our state healthier and provide benefits to our citizens. So that's the kind of depth of understanding that we want our communities to have to continue to support the work that we're doing.
Yeah, it's it's shocking how our lives are shaped and impacted by research and
Mhm.
innovation in many ways, in ways that we just are not aware of. I mean, it's absolutely remarkable. I work with this amazing program called the Nate McMillan Foundation. And I just get an opportunity to talk to kids. And I remember I was just saying, I'm an old man. And all the kids are like, "You're not old. You're not old." I was like, "Yes, I am old. Because when I was your age, this is what a telephone looked like." And I
Right.
showed them like, what? It's it's just
Yeah.
remarkable how rapid innovation comes online,
Mhm.
and then how rapid it then is that innovation is in the marketplace and we're able to consume it. It used to be
Absolutely.
like, and this is gonna sound, you probably heard this. I remember watching the Jetsons and seeing George Jetson talk to his boss, Spacely Sprocket, on television,
Yeah.
right, through a monitor, and
Yeah.
I was like, "What? Oh my gosh, that's crazy." And here you and I are right now
Right.
having a podcast through a monitor. It's just it's remarkable.
Right.
And so you have this amazing responsibility and challenge to communicate all of the happenings as they occur on the bleeding edge, right?
Mhm.
This is before oftentimes these things have reached the marketplace. So they're so fresh.
Mhm.
What are some strategies that you use? So you touched on, like, if I don't understand this,
Mhm.
how will the layperson understand this? And so you start there.
Yeah.
How are you Yeah, I think that's what how do you become aware of what the layperson knows? Like,
Mm.
how do you touch into, yeah, that kind of
Yeah.
popular public narrative and discourse, and have an understanding of like, all right, what are people's foundation? What is their baseline that I can build on?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I don't think any one person has that answer. So it's really important to have diverse perspectives on the team so that they can be kind of the touch point for those different audiences, right? But I will say, while we are the Office of Research Communications, we're certainly not the only outlet communicating research at Carolina. Carolina Research is huge. It's a $1.55 billion enterprise. I mean, that's like a huge company, right? So many different types of research. So each of the schools actually has communicators and teams who do a phenomenal job of communicating their work. We, along with the Central Communications Office, have kind of a broader portfolio where we're trying to talk about the sum total value of all the research that happens at Carolina. So we do have that, breadth that we touch, and even through our communication storytelling, that we talk about everything from humanities to healthcare, but there are other folks doing it too. um, to do it better and to your question, reaching all the different segments, we are really coordinated with all of our colleagues. I think that is part of working here at this institution for a decade, and a lot of consistency on my team and others, building these relationships. So for one, we work with the communicators together to coordinate and complement efforts, but we also have this network with the researchers themselves that know us and trust us to do a good job in conveying their work to the public. So I think, relationship building is really important in that regard too.
Yeah, you're so needed. I remember when my family first found out that I was, a scientist, that I was going to be a researcher. They just started asking me every question in the book. So,
Yeah,
like, I'm not even that kind of doctor, or that's not the type of science that
yeah.
I feel like when I have to say that, that just kind of is evidence that there's like a hunger for knowledge. And quite frankly, it's why I started this podcast, because people just they want to know stuff.
Mhm.
And that's
One of the
also why.
greatest compliments we had recently, our head science writer, Alyssa LaFaro, wrote a piece on a cancer researcher. I saw his post about it. He shared it on LinkedIn and he wrote, "Thanks for making me famous to my kids." It's like, that's awesome.
That is really cool. That is a compliment.
Yeah.
Yeah, being famous to your kids is the only famous that matters, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the only type of famous that matters. But yeah, being famous for research is just absolutely just incredible, especially since the things that I know are taking place at UNC are just absolutely incredible. Now I know I'm biased, right? But obviously UNC has the best research in the world. I don't care what anybody says. You know what I say, North Carolina is so important for science that you can't even spell science without NC.
I
So,
love it.
we know
You have
that.
to trademark that. We need to put bumper stickers out into the world.
Facts, we absolutely do. I know they'll be popular, right?
Yep.
I got, my PhD from the School of Medicine. I studied viruses. Obviously, I think viruses are just absolutely incredible to study, and finding cures for them can save a lot of lives. And so I was just happy to be a part of that. But you research at Carolina is just amazing, and it's not all, medical research, and it's not all virology. So what are some really cool research projects that are happening right now at UNC that you can, tell us about? Because I know there's a lot of really cool things going on that I don't even know about. So what are some really cool
Oh
projects that
gosh.
you are aware of?
Again, where do I even start? Like, this is so many.
Start with
I
the
think,
Galapagos. No, I don't know.
yeah.
You can start
Well,
anywhere.
hey, okay, that's a great place to start. So most people don't know that we have had a consistent presence in the Galapagos for 12, 13 years now. We're the only research university that has a laboratory on the island. And that has been a partnership with another institution, but we have such incredible work going on there because it's such a diverse ecosystem. But we're even training the local community in medical fields, nursing included. So people, think about Galapagos research in terms of like the tortoises, the sea lions. But our researchers are studying phytoplankton to analyze the impacts of climate change on the food chain. And other really, really astonishing work down there. The Galapagos is incredible. And I actually had the opportunity to go down 2 summers ago, and it changed my life. I mean, that is such a magical place. But yeah, other things that people might not be aware of, we're the leader in the country in the social sciences. We have some of the longest, most formative longitudinal studies in the world that have, analyzed changes over time that so many researchers pull data from. I mentioned some of our work in the environmental sciences, but I think that is worth another emphasis. We just launched last year a new institute that looks at risk management and insurance, which on the outset maybe doesn't sound as exciting as some of the biomedical advancements that we're making, but think about Western North Carolina. This is important stuff. And I think, the next phase to come will build on our existing strengths. We have been a leader in biomedical fields, including yourself, for 30-ish years. We've had this leadership in computer sciences as it's evolved for 50 years. And we're complementing the two to create solutions that are going to advance medicine in ways that we cannot even imagine.
Uh, You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I mean, I alluded to this earlier when I just talked about, what phones look like
Yeah.
back in the day. I also know, as a virologist, when, the first, flu pandemic really hit,
Mhm.
around the time of World War I,
Mhm.
it was devastating. And at that time, we didn't even know as a research community what a virus was.
Mhm.
And then now, fast forward, we know exactly what a virus is. And you can talk, as you mentioned, to a layperson, and they can articulate what a virus is.
Yeah.
And just so much will happen. I oftentimes, argue that the amount of impact that innovation has on our lives over the course of the next 10 years
Mhm.
will eclipse the impact that innovation have had on our lives for the preceding, 100, right, to 500 years.
Mhm.
And like I said, you're kind of right on the bleeding edge of kind of communicating a lot of that. You talked about um, biomedical and health research going on. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the exciting projects in that regards? If you can tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, so many, so many to draw from. A couple that are standing out to me, we have incredible advancements in precision cancer. I mean, one example is using a patient's own brain stem cells to combat brain cancer and tumors in the brain. Things that I don't understand how it works, but incredible, incredible advancements. Um, other types of precision cancer are we're making incredible headroads on CAR T therapies. Our work in Alzheimer's, our work in other brain health areas. Um, what else? The HIV now being a manageable disease, not a deadly disease.
Right.
That work really originated at Carolina, and we're only going to get stronger in that regard. We launched a cure center a handful of years ago to find the cure so that HIV is finished completely. We have a global health and infectious disease institute that is doing incredible work with malaria and all Zika, all kinds of illnesses. And we were really, you mentioned viruses. I think the one silver lining of the pandemic was that everybody became a little more versed in science communication and the need for educating themselves about it. But at our at university, we had vaccines in development, tests for COVID in development, treatments well before most folks did. It's just, I'm really proud of the biomedical work that happens to this institution.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. When you have a situation like that, everybody becomes more versed. I remember going and talking at churches and,
Oh, nice.
arranging town halls so
Yeah.
people could ask questions about what's going on in the pandemic. And
Mhm.
I was just shocked on how many people were like, "Oh yeah, that's a coronavirus." Yeah, coronavirus incorporates a lot of different viruses, and
Yep. Yeah.
SARS-CoV-2 is just one of those. And COVID, it was
Wow.
just absolutely I'm not joking. And they would
Yeah.
start asking about other viruses, and it was just absolutely incredible. And it's just really, really amazing. And over the course of probably like the past maybe 10 years, um, there has been an increased focus on science communication,
Mhm.
right? And I think it's oftentimes directed at scientists being better communicators,
Mhm.
right? And understanding the importance of describing their work
Mhm.
to people like who are not other scientists, right? That's really, really huge. Have you noticed that growth, and like what role? I mean, I know you played a huge role in it, but do you play a role in the larger science communication community?
I wish I played a bigger role in it. I think from my purview, I'm more focused on communications for the organization and the
Yes.
strategic priorities. But
Right.
I think to your point, we work with our researchers to distill their messages for any type of audience, including, specific communities like their churches or their
Yep.
neighbors, even their families sometimes don't
Yes.
understand the importance of their work. So I love that we're a part of that. But there's a huge science network, especially in North Carolina, that I'm tapped into by proxy. I don't really
Yes.
lead. But there is just no shortage of skill set there.
Yeah, listen, I knew exactly who I wanted to talk to when it came to science communication, right? I was like, all right, we
Mhm,
need to have something on here on science communication.
mhm.
And I was like, Layla Dowdy, we got to start there. I didn't even know then that you had done all of this work with NASA and stuff. And
Yeah.
I'm like, you even more so after talking to you. I'm like, oh, we got to have you on again. No, just absolutely. And so I wasn't wrong in how complimentary I was with my introduction. If anything, I didn't, give you your praise appropriately. I didn't do you any kind of justice on that, because you do a really really amazing job. So any science communicators out there, you want to bring somebody in, listen, Layla Dowdy, if you're not bringing her in, I don't know what you're doing.
No,
But
I don't know about that, but thank you.
I'm just joking. They probably know what they're doing, but they need to involve you. But I really wanted to say, I really wanted to give you an opportunity because I know that UNC, has a mission, and it's really incredible. Flagship institution. It produced me. It produced
Yep,
countless other researchers who are just absolutely amazing. We can just go on and on and on and on. Produced two Nobel laureates,
right.
Aziz Sankar and the late Oliver Smithies. So just absolutely incredible to have come from that environment. But I really wanted to talk from you because I am not on campus, even though I still do a lot as far as
We
Sigma
see you a
Xi.
lot. We see you a
Sigma
lot.
Xi, I don't show up as much as I should. I need to be there, more often, and I love sports. So
Yeah.
Anyway, we know what's coming up in March. We all know. We'll see what happens. Um, but what I do want to ask you are, what are some of your priorities like over the
Mm,
next 5 years, and really the priorities of the university as far as research? I know you all have some really amazing priorities and focuses that I've seen mentioned over the past few months, and
mhm.
they're all really really incredible. Can you articulate some of those aspirations, some of those mission objectives as far as research at Carolina? I love to hear about those.
Sure, sure. So, I mentioned that our current threshold of research activity is $1.55 billion. I want to say at the outset of my comment here that that is incredible growth. As I mentioned, I've been here for 10 years, but I wrote the release 8 years ago when we broke a billion. So to jump from 1 billion to 1.55 in 8 years, incredible. And that is a testament to the partnerships that we have between the federal government, the state government, and our institution itself, drawing in the talent that attracts an impressive graduate student body and undergraduate student body that keeps us chugging along and reaching new heights. I will say at that pace though, that we've kind of hit the ceiling for growth, but there's so much more that we can and should do for our state and our country and beyond. So all of our strategies are geared towards growth. The big asterisk here, if your podcast is going to run this week, there have been some changes in the federal government that we need to look at and assess before we keep plugging along on that growth. And some of this is causing some concern and anxiety, rightfully so. But we as the flagship institution are taking them very seriously, and we're communicating to our community and beyond as much as we can about the value of this institution. So I think once we get past this time, we continue on to our strategies that help us enable that future growth. our Vice Chancellor for Research, Dr. Penny Gordon Larson, has articulated a vision that will get us to 2 billion by 2034. So hopefully we can get back on track with that, you know, go towards some of these new strategic priorities that she has in place for that build on our existing capacity and years of excellence. So there's a lot of things in the pipeline that we're really excited about.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And the institution has been around since
Right.
1789,
Right.
right? That's like around the time, if I'm remembering the Broadway musical, is it Hamilton? I always mix it up. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was like I think 1789 is when like Thomas Jefferson came
Yeah.
back to the right. And so that's
Yeah.
like how long we were
Right.
talking about, right? It's been
Right.
around that long. And
Yes.
the impact as far as innovation that the university has had on the broader international research community has only increased over time. And as with changes, what ends up happening is that amazing people still do absolutely amazing things. And so just super, super excited just to see. And UNC and you all, I shouldn't say you all, I should say it correctly. Y'all have all
I love it.
y'all have always done a tremendous job, especially in regards to connecting what everyone is doing
Mhm.
back to the stakeholders, which are people of North Carolina, people around the country. And I feel as though throughout the history, Carolina has like never really lost focus on that, right? And I just do not anticipate that happening at all. I do actually. You mentioned the growth of computer science and comp sci, um, and how it has a relationship with the medical field. Computer science is just has always been just growing, right?
Mhm.
I wanted to really kind of know if you have any kind of insight into kind of the role that general artificial intelligence
Oh,
and large language models and just the development of artificial intelligence as a discipline that impacts all other disciplines
mhm,
currently.
mhm.
um, from your perspective as a communicator, how have you seen um, UNC's comp sci or computer science department really kind of, you know, incorporating itself into probably one of the most amazing technological times of human history? How have you seen,
Yeah,
the department really working with that?
that's a great question. And I think it relates with your previous question perfectly because AI is such a driver of research right now. And, the computer science department was foundational in its growth in this region, but I mean, that they are doing, they are working on the cusp of innovations there. But AI is driving advancements in literally every field on our campus. So it is a strategic priority of ours specifically to foster growth for AI, but also to see it support growth across the board. So you mentioned the computer science department. We also have a new school for data science and society that's employing AI as a resource. And but it doesn't stop there. It's literally everywhere.
Wait,
Journalism,
tell us about
like
that
everywhere.
school. No, tell us about that school, Data Science and Society, really quick. It's a new school. That sounds really I love data, I
Mhm.
love science, and I love society. So
Yeah.
somehow you put all of these things together in some kind of delicious casserole and
Mhm.
called it a department. What amazing things are going on in the School of Data Science and Society? Hopefully I got
Yeah,
that right.
and there are so many folks from that school that you should have on this podcast, including the dean,
Oh, yes.
the lead
I'd
for
love to have
research,
them.
the associate dean, all of them incredible, impressive individuals. But the name that you're articulating in your regard for, it was so intentional. The inaugural dean, who's still the dean there, purposely put "and society" on the end of it because the goal of the school is to equip next generation of professionals whether they stay in data science specifically or in another field, to be good stewards of data. Data is overwhelming. Storage of data is overwhelming. The application of data is overwhelming. But to be mindful and ethical of the ways that we are employing this technology across the board is so important to our mission as a service to the state and beyond.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Um, you know, I always have a really, really difficult time at the end of podcasts, at the
Okay.
end of episodes. And the reason why is I end up right after the call ends, I end up just kicking myself because I wish I had asked this question or
Mm.
I wish I had asked that question. And then also I have this kind of like fear that my guest walks away having not said what they wanted to say, right? So I wanted to take a chance to first say, one, where can folks find you at? Where can they find information from the
Mhm.
office, the vice chancellor of research, or if they really want to know about the happenings of UNC in regards to research, where can they go to find more information?
Oh, thank you for that plug. So our website, which is the hub for both researchers to enable them to conduct research effectively at Carolina, but also a platform for storytelling, is research.unc.edu. You'll find my contact page buried in there somewhere. But I'm also really easy to find in the directory anywhere. But what's also really cool is the university at large values research to the degree that you can go on the homepage, unc.edu, and see compelling research stories that either our team has produced or one of the other schools. Research is a pillar for the whole institution, and it's that those stories are out there.
Yeah, every day is a great day to be a Tar Heel. So just make sure you
Absolutely.
keep up with all that stuff. What question should I have asked you that I didn't ask you?
Oh,
This is a free flowing conversation for
yeah.
better or worse. I don't have a script. I am just talking with really cool people. Maybe I should develop a script and have a list of questions, but I do not. And so
Yeah.
that's why I kick myself after this is over with because I'm like, oh, I should have asked this. I should have asked
Mm.
that. So I want to give you a chance now. Was there a question that you were hoping to be asked that I didn't ask? I
Mm.
want to give you the opportunity. Tell us that question and then just go ahead and
Yeah.
answer it.
Richard, I'm sure your guests have the same experience that once they sign off, oh, I should have said this, and I will be right in line with that. No, I think we covered a great deal. Not a question, but a comment. I hope that our partnership that we built with the Pariser Lecture continues to grow. There's a lot of great overlap in your circles and ours, and a lot of, mutual benefit there. And when you're asking questions, Richard, for people that work at UNC, don't say y'all, say us. You're part of us. You're a Tar Heel.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I need to figure out a way to really kind of work that saying thank you. Thank
Yep.
you. Once a Tar Heel, forever a Tar Heel.
Right.
And I should probably know I'm a Tar Heel born, Tar Heel bred. And when I die, I'll be a Tar
Tar
Heel
Heel
dead.
dead. That's
That's it's
right.
kind of like a lifelong commitment, right?
Yeah.
But what I will say is I think there are a lot of different opportunities and go ahead and plug. We have selected our next Harriser Global Lecture. I'm not going to say it right now, though. I'm not going
Okay.
to say it right now. I
Stay
was
tuned.
thinking, how in the world can we follow up the last lecture?
Hmm.
How in the world can we do it? But we've done it. We've done it. And it's going to be awesome. I'll tell you all about it when I get a chance. And then I also have to figure out a way to kind of be like, okay, you can't spell science without
The
NC,
NC.
and
Yeah.
you can't spell UNC without you or
Yeah.
something.
I
I don't
love
know.
it.
I've got to figure something out with that. I got to figure something out with that. Do you have any questions for me or whatever? It feels like every interview should end with what questions do you have for us?
I know. Well, it's not a job interview.
No, right? Yeah, you're like, how much are gonna get paid for
Yeah.
this? No,
But I
I
always
just
enjoy talking with you, Richard. This was great.
yeah, my hope is that this will be folks' their favorite podcast. We have the most amazing guests, right? Listen, you might have your favorite podcast out there, but they haven't brought in Layla Dowdy, Director of Communications for the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, Office of Vice Chancellor of Research. Listen, thank you so much for all that you do, not only for the research community at UNC, but for the research community at large. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to be with us and kick off our season 2 of the Richard Watkins podcast. Just thank you so much, Layla.
Thanks, Richard.
All right. You have a good one. And for everyone out there, be sure to visit University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill on their social media outlets, their website. Follow the Office of the Vice Chancellor of Research, UNC Research. Check that out. Our episodes will premiere every single Friday. Be sure to check those out on YouTube and Facebook. And you can also follow up at LinkedIn. And those are Science Policy Action Network on Facebook and on YouTube. And until next time, I don't know, get smarter. Have a good one. Take care. Bye.